I'm rolling.
All right. So then in the vernacular, we can run this puppy over.
More like we
I'm
can
sure.
snowball our food pantry items.
Yes, I'm sure the good looking people much prefer that one.
Probably.
There we go. When these dads meet world, watching Boy Meets World. We grew up on the show, now we have kids and host a podcast. We watch each episode and then share our thoughts and grades. When these dads meet world.
They want you to take the roles.
Have some rules, good looking people, and welcome back to Dads Meet World, your weekly dive into Boy Meets World and the entire world of heightened reality that Cory Matthews inhabits. I am, as always, every alternating week, dad number one with you this week, Brett, joined with my co host.
Dad number 2, Tyler.
Yes. And this week we get another episode where we're going to dive into, but before we rush into that, Tyler, how the heck are you doing? Sounds like you have birds in your house.
Yes, I have many birds in my house. It all culminates from one little bird. I have been better. We have been dealing with a bug in our house that doesn't seem like it wants to go away.
It seems like you and bugs
it's
are
kind of
are good friends this winter, unfortunately.
yeah. I don't know what the deal is right now, but yeah, we just been dealing with something. Still kind of dealing with it. I don't know, but yeah, it was really bad the other day, and still dealing with something right now. But it is what it is. So not a whole lot of fun on our end. But the children have for the most part been healthy, so that's all that really matters. Like there's nothing worse than having a sick child that can't communicate to you. So
Mm-hmm.
both the boys really have avoided getting sick. It's really just been me. So
That's
I mean, the wife did get
always
sick
fun.
the other day too, but yeah, yep, exactly. How are you, Brett?
Oh, I'm pretty tired. I've been fighting a bug myself the last couple of days, so I think it
Mm,
was I caught it digitally through our last recording. So yeah,
maybe.
no, I'm getting prepped for in about a week. I get to go spend a week in North Carolina for hundreds of and thousands of representatives across the globe, and I get to go for my day job, and I get to go take pictures and record videos and be busy all day long. And so I get to spend the next week preparing for all of that and getting things ready around the house. And I spent the last couple of days sick, so I'm already behind the eight ball
Nice.
on that one. But I was able to keep consistent and up to date with my X-Men 97 viewings. So good looking people, we've got that.
Well, good. I still have not started.
They're only 30 minutes each episode, so you don't have a lot to catch up. They're only 6 episodes out of 10 in, so. But
I
good
don't know.
looking
I feel like
people.
I gotta go through and watch the rest of the season. The whole series I gotta watch it before I watch that.
Well, good looking people, if you were like me and you grew up on Boy Meets World, you also spent a lot of time growing up on 90s Marvel animation with X-Men and Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man. Um, this is like going back to the days of watching Saturday morning cartoons, and at the same time the characters in the world has also matured to catch up with me as an adult. And so
Nice.
not that it's matured in the way that I couldn't share it with my kids. I shared the pilot or the premiere episode with my sons, and they were both excited by it. And my sons are 10 and 14, and I have no compunction about hiding anything from the series from them. But yeah, it's good comic book fun, and honestly, some of the best stuff to come out of Marvel since the Infinity Saga ended. So, and possibly overshadow some of the stuff during that time too. So, at least from this reviewer's humble opinion.
Are you saying that Marvel only really knows what to do with X-Men right now, and that's it?
Um, I say this having not seen the Marvels and having not watched the last couple of series. I did not view She-Hulk. I did not view Echo. Um, but having not seen the last couple of big things that came out, I will still pretty confidently say yes, based
Yep.
on my own viewing of what's come out post Infinity War, and uh, I'll say from some trusted sources of review, not general consensus of one party or the other.
Yeah, the last good thing that came out of Marvel, I would say, would be Across the Spider-Verse.
Still have not seen that one yet. So
Really?
when it drops on Disney Plus, I'm sure I will watch that with Toby, because we did watch Into the Spider-Verse and enjoyed it very much.
Oh, you know what? It's been on Netflix.
Ah, well, that would
That's why you
probably
haven't
be why
seen
we
it,
haven't
probably.
viewed it yet.
Yeah, it's probably on Prime. When it came to Prime, we actually bought it on there, so I'm sure you could rent it on Prime.
I'm sure we could. It's just
So
a matter
just throw
of
it out there.
finding 2 hours in our busy teenagers' lives to be able to do that.
That's fair. I recommend it.
Yes.
Grace and I went and saw it in theaters. We watched part of it, and then when it was available to finally finish, we got it as soon as we could and watched as a family. So yes,
Yes.
no,
Well,
the baby is in the other room, and all sorts of noise will be coming through
yes.
today.
And good looking people, the editors are not going to try and take any of that stuff out. So,
Nope, just you're gonna be hearing a toddler. Yep,
because
that's
we
it.
are dads. Yes. And one
Yep,
of us
we are
has young
dads.
children.
There's a reason why we try to record this after young people go to bed. Is because that's all we'd hear otherwise. But
Yes.
things
But
don't
not
always work out that
today.
way.
Not
Not
this
today.
week. Yeah. But speaking of today and this week, let's dive right into our synopsis for this week's episode.
Let's do it.
How'd you like that for a segue? All right.
Bing, bing.
So we're looking at episode 10 of season 4, Turkey Day. Cory and Shawn are given an assignment over Thanksgiving weekend about the class differences that are at the heart of the conflict in 1996 Rwanda, and are quick to assume that these same divisions between the haves and the have-nots do not exist in Philadelphia. But they learn better when their respective families do not show full enthusiasm in spending their Thanksgiving together. Meanwhile, Frankie's younger brother Herman hears that the aristocratic Matthews are coming to the trailer park, and he decides to try to sweetheart Cory's sister Morgan. Again, good-looking people. I do not write I do not write these synopses. But yeah, sweetheart Cory's sister Morgan is not a term I would have particularly landed on, but here we are. This episode was written by Suzanne Estelle Jansen. This is the last episode of hers that we will ever see in Boy Meets World. She wrote 9 episodes, including among them Killer Bees, It's a Wonderful Night, The Uninvited, Cyrano, Hair Today, Goon Tomorrow, and others. She also wrote 8 episodes of Home Improvement. And for those of you who grew up on the Disney Channel, the Lizzie McGuire movie, and 1 episode of Girl Meets World. So thank you, Suzanne. Susan. I'm still not sure how to pronounce that properly. Thank you for your service, and you've given us some pretty solid Boy Meets World episodes.
Yeah, all the ones you mentioned I have enjoyed. Even if they weren't my favorite episodes, they were still pretty classic. So
Yeah,
thank you for
we
your
were still
service.
talking about one of them last week. So
Yeah.
directed as always in season 4 by Jeff McCracken. Originally aired November 22nd, 1996, right in time for Thanksgiving, and currently enjoys an IMDb rating of 7.7. Now, last week we had a 15.3 Nielsen rating. Good looking people. That is 15.3 million people tuning in on Friday night to watch during the heyday of TGIF. Tyler, where do you think we sit with episode 10 after last week's 15.3?
I mean, there are more guest stars in this episode, technically. There's the Hunters and the whole Matthews are there.
But we don't
And
have the WWF draw because we don't have
no, but
Vader
Herman, the
or
future
Jake
of
the
the
Snake.
business, is there, Brett. He's the future. Probably like 14 is what I'm thinking.
We actually went up
Wow,
15.6.
that's not bad.
Yeah, 0.3 million more people watched this week. They probably got excited from hearing about the WWF being involved last week and said, hey, if they can bring them in, let's see what they do this week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Always a chance.
always a chance. Now, good looking people, this was back in the heyday where you didn't have 8 to 10 episodes seasons, and you had an opportunity at 22, 23 episodes a season to really get into some holiday themed episodes. And so we really get to spend a lot of time with the holiday of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And so what do you say we dive right into it?
Well, diving in, I think we should, but let's dive right into a deep dive, Brett.
Okay, let's do it. Do you want your theme song?
Well, you gotta have the theme song.
All right.
People. Am I the only one who read the summer reading list?
All right, so I think it's important to get context of the Hutus and the Tutsis because literally throughout the whole episode, Cory and Shawn kept being like, "Are we the only people that don't know anything about this?"
I think he's lost it and just making stuff up in reference to
I do love how that's how they start. I don't think these are real. He's lost it.
We're gonna need to take him out.
Yes. So, a brief history, just kind of generalization. So, Rwanda, initially in the 1950s, this is where the whole conflict kind of began. Okay, there was a ethnic conflict after the after Germany lost possession of Rwanda during the First World War, and the territory was placed under Belgium's administration, during which there was tensions were increased. The Hutus, a political movement which stood to gain their major ruling, was gaining momentum, while segments of the Tutsis establishing resistance, demonstrations, and loss of their acquired privileges. So, in November of 1959, there was a violent incident sparked as a Hutu uprising in which hundreds of Tutsis were killed, thousands displaced and forced to flee to neighboring countries. This marked the start of the so-called Hutu peasant revolution, or special revolution, lasting from 1959 to 61. Rwanda gained its own independence in 1962. Civil War began in 1988. Okay, so to fast track us, in August 1993, through the peacemaking efforts of the OUA and the governments in the region, signing of the Amusha peace agreement appeared to have brought an end to conflict between the Hutus dominant government and the opposition Rwanda Patriotic Forces, the RPF. October 1993, the Security Council established the United Nations Assistance Missions for Rwanda, with a mandate encompassing peacekeeping, humanitarianism, humanitarian assistance and general support for peace in the process. Sorry, this is all coming from the UN's website, so I'm trying to read through what is important for us to be able to establish what we need to be establishing.
Mm-hmm.
So on April 6, 1994, death of the president of Burundi, Burundi and Rwanda in a plane
Burundi.
crash caused by rocket attack ignited several weeks of intense and systematic massacres, killing more than 1 million people are established to have perished, shocked the international community where clear acts of genocide, establishing 100,000 to 250,000 women were unfortunately raped. Members of the Presidential Guard started killing Tutsi civilians in a section of Kigali near the airport less than half of an hour after the plane crash. Roadblocks manned by Hutus military men often assassinated paramilitary police or military personnel were set up to identify Tutsis. So, one of the reasons that a lot of this kind of went down, to my understanding, and some of the stuff that I've learned over the years, because right now, from the actual source I'm looking at, I'm not finding the information I need to find and be able to give it to you quickly enough. But the UN was in this area, and with everything starting, they almost had to pull themselves out. So that meant there was no military forces in there, and that's part of the reason why a lot of chaos ensued, because there was not a
Mm-hmm.
bigger entity in there to say we need to stop this. It just kind of everything just kept escalating, and there was afterwards genocide trials. The Rwanda government began a long-awaited genocide trial at the end of 1996. The delay was due to the fact that the country had lost most of its judicial personnel, not to mention the destruction to the courts, trials, and other infrastructures. By 2000, there were over 100,000 genocide suspects waiting trial. So finally, in 2001, they were able to finally start to basically we're able to finally start to recover to be able to prosecute those they needed to prosecute. So this is a very long running, very important moment in time, and the fact that one, I don't expect two teenagers in Philadelphia to know what's going on, um, especially
Mm-hmm.
because in 1996 is really when things really started to escalate even more. Um,
And to be fair to the characters of Shawn and Cory, it's been long established that they don't see a real point in looking at the difference in class between
right,
the two of
and
them.
that's the other thing too, is that if it's not something that brings them joy or is something that they want to learn about, talk about, they don't. Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it is something, not to get too far ahead of us, but Sean kind of says in the beginning, or at the end, maybe it's a good thing we're ignorant about this subject, because if we weren't,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe we would see this issue. Um, so yeah, I wish I could give better information on why this genocide occurred, other than kind of what the show is showing, which is essentially there's a divide between two different sections of this country, and unfortunately, this causes people to decide that one is worthy while the other one is not worthy, and too many people lost their lives because of this disagreement. What is starting to remind me of
Mhm.
Brett is some of the stuff that's talked about today in the landscape of in a much bigger country with 50 states.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, this is a show that was this episode itself was 28 years ago. And, as I sit here, I look at us in the United States, and we don't often delve into political issues on Dad's Meet World. There are other podcasts out there for that, and that's not the reason we exist. We want to give you much more fun, much more entertaining things to do with your time to escape from those things. But even though this is a topic that is from 30 years ago, uh, the applications are still around. You can find them in the United States. You can find them in the Middle East right now, where we are dealing with class-based warfare, class-based genocide that is just it's there because the human heart is broken and has been broken for centuries. And so this is, we still see this type of thing today. And so the same type of things that Feeney is teaching his students are the same type of things that we see today. And so that's probably one of the reasons that, as I tip my hand a little bit, that this episode still hits me just as hard today as it did in 96, because I wasn't as well versed then as I am now about the Hutus and the Tutsis or anything else in the world that is similar, but I
Mhm.
was aware of it, and it hit me really hard then when I saw it the first time. And I was watching this last week in preparation, and it still
Yep.
hits me hard today listening to Sean's paper. So but yeah, all that to set the table for It's Good Looking People. What Feeney's talking about, if you are unfamiliar at all, a lot of a shared country that is going through class-based warfare and genocide that our main characters, Shawn and Cory, are not aware of, and it's not something that impacts them directly because they have been written as such that class-based differences are not something that they have concerned themselves with. They have chosen to look past
Mhm.
those type of differences, which in my book is a fantastic ability for any
Right.
teenager if they're able to do so.
How often do teenagers really know what's going on, say, in the political landscape as well, though?
More so now
Correct. I
than
was
they
gonna say
did
more
when
so
I was a
now, but
teenager.
back, even in the
But still not as informed as they
right,
could be if they were 10 years
back
older.
in the early 2000s slash 2010s ish era, back when I was in high school and college, I didn't think about anything political whatsoever because it didn't affect me. Why did it matter to
Mhm.
me? My life was fine. Um, and that's
Yep.
kind of a privilege to be able to have that stance. Um, and at the end of the day, I think Corey and Shawn have that stance of why should I worry about other people's problems when I have other problems to deal with? We have more important, issues going on right now in our world, like our hair.
Mhm. Yes. And so let's
Yeah.
let's use that as our jumping off point, because Mr. Feeney is trying to teach about this, and Cory and Shawn are thinking that Feeney's run out of stuff to teach them. He's making stuff out. They're just going to need to take him out because he's just, he's like an old horse that's
He's
looked
making these
past
names
his
up.
prime. I find that hilarious. He's making the names up. I find it hilarious. Before they break for Thanksgiving break,
They
we
have a
do
paper.
find out
Yay!
that Cory and Shawn, yes, they're going to write a paper about class differences. And we will actually return to that. Not unlike some of the other papers that are assigned that we don't ever really get to see the fruits of. We're going to get to see the fruits of it. But we also get to see the winners of the Thanksgiving food drive. And of course, Cory and Shawn have won the food drive by donating the most, I'm assuming. Which leads Shawn to explain that because Topanga calls foul because they just bring the same stuff every year. And Shawn kind of Shawn is not ashamed to say, hey, look, I'm a product of the food chain, or the food bank chain. They give to me, I give to them, they give to me. It's a cycle. It's an amusing joke. I do want to get on a very small soapbox for those who may not be familiar with the food bank model. In my day job, I am part journalist, and so I work. I tell stories for a lot of churches and
Mhm.
organizations that run food banks.
It is.
It is a valuable resource for many people in our communities that do not have food and other resources that these places provide. And it is a fantastic opportunity for those who have much to donate and give to others who do not. Do not just search your pantries for the oldest cans of stuff that you're never going to use anyway
I
and give them crap, because that
I
does
think
not
that's
help
the point
anyone.
that potentially Sean has made in this, is that people give us junk, we give the junk back. They give us junk back, we give junk back. Like, and I've been to enough pantries to know
Yeah.
that a lot of them are trying to give out fresh, good food. It's not just whatever canned goods they can
Hmm.
give. Like, they have certain items that they need to have on stock, and, how they can get them is how they can get them. And
Hmm.
even things as like dog food, cat food, baby food. They try to have as many things as
Yeah.
they can, diapers, they want to be able to provide the things that people need, not
Yeah.
just anything in a can that people should be thankful for.
Yes, and there are those that have even been able to branch out into helping to provide people with the opportunity and the education to even to cook their own meals, not just here's a
Yeah.
can of food and here's prep food, but hey, your family will actually eat this type of food. Here's some boxed meals, but here's also the other ingredients you'll need with it that your family will eat. And here's
Yeah.
you're going to need protein. Here's protein. You're going to need fruits and vegetables. Here fruits. Good looking people. You've heard my wife Kelly on the podcast just recently, a couple of weeks ago. One of her roles in the organization she works with is a monthly what they call Mountain of Food, where it is a massive food bank giveaway to hundreds of people in the community that we live in, where they are very intentional about what they give away, to who they give away. And they have a lot of returning people, a lot of regular people, a lot of people who are new. And they are very intentional about what they give, about who they give it to, because they want to make sure that everyone is getting what they need, not just the last can of water
Yep.
chestnuts that no one's going to eat. So yes, Sean makes a great point in the form of a joke that 30 years
Hmm.
later, yeah, I didn't get at the time, but here 30 years later, I have a
Yep.
much deeper
Well, it,
appreciation
it
for
does
that
break my
model.
heart too, because I have seen food banks and soup kitchens of people looking at the products and being like, "We'll never use this. I have no idea why anyone donated it. It's not useful. We'll never
Hmm.
use this." And the sad part is that those items that are just getting chucked out because it's not useful. If you're
Hmm.
donating your old
Yep.
items that are now out of
Yep.
date, that's not a donation. That's just you using them as a garbage. So if you're gonna actually give something that
Hmm.
you would want to eat, you
Yeah.
just didn't get the chance to, or that you purposely are buying to donate. That is a much better use of your donation to the food banks.
Yes. So, in the spirit of wanting to give you guys some good, solid guidance and knowledge, let's also
Yes, let's
focus
get
on
to some
giving
laughs,
some
Brett.
entertainment as well
Let's
as
stop
us.
yelling
We
at
don't want
them.
to just be a downer. um, Cory and Shawn, yes, I'm looking at my clock. We're 30 minutes in, and we've already got delved into race-based genocide and what not to
so
do with food banks. So
so
Cory and
so I was
Shawn
gonna
went a
say,
turkey and
so whatever you
stuffing.
do, don't commit genocide and give to the food banks the right stuff, the good stuff.
That's going to be the
Your dad
TikTok clip
said
of the
so.
week. Both dads say so. So Cory and Shawn went turkey and stuffing. So let's set up a potential poll.
I mean,
Tyler,
I'll
what's
eat
better,
stuffing anytime,
turkey
any
or
day,
stuffing?
anywhere. I mean, there's so many varieties of stuffing you can get, and I try to hold back from getting too many of these things. But every time I stock the shelves, Brett, and I see all the different stuffings, I think, "Ooh, that sounds nice. That sounds lovely." And every now and then I'll see a turkey, and I'll go, I could go for
Mhm.
some turkey. But I'm like, do I want all the extra stuff with turkey? No. But I know that my family loves turkey, so yeah, a lot of prep
It's a
work.
lot of
I don't
prep
mind
work.
cooking turkey. I think it's actually quite enjoyable, and you know, but we
Yeah.
always go other places
Oh,
for
yeah.
Thanksgiving dinner, so we have no need of buying a turkey. We'll do it. I think this past year we did it for Christmas. I
Mhm.
think we did Christmas Eve at my family's house, and then we did Christmas Day with us. So I think to make sure we could feed everybody who was here for that week, we just did a turkey so that way people could keep taking little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we've hosted Thanksgiving dinner in the last couple of years at our house, so we have done a turkey every year.
yeah,
It's nice. I've actually turned the remains into turkey soup that none of my kids will eat, unfortunately. So yes,
makes
and for
sense.
those good-looking people at home, let's hear what your favorite thanks. It's April as we're recording this, but we'll also share this again in November. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish, good-looking people? Share it in the comments on our
Yeah,
social media. Uh, but
but you can't. I at this point, Brett, I'm just gonna say it. You can have Thanksgiving without turkey. You can't have Thanksgiving without
very
stuffing.
true. Yeah, there are people who use tofu for their
Yeah.
main dish. Clearly, I'm not one of
Ooh,
them.
that's what we need to do. We need to have a Dad's Meat World official Thanksgiving bracket.
Ooh, yeah, we'll do that in November. We'll have to re-listen to this episode to remember. But
No,
Shawn
we
and
don't.
Cory, this has inspired Shawn and Cory to have an idea. Yes, we're 33 minutes in. We haven't even hit the end of the tag of the intro. But they have this idea to have a shared Thanksgiving meal, which brings me to a clip of how they're
They both want the
yeah,
stuffing.
they both want
Neither one of them want the turkey. They want
they
the
both want the
stuffing.
stuffing, and so their plan of sharing it is to have a shared Thanksgiving meal, and their families have some different thoughts, and so let's listen to
Yeah.
their thoughts.
Well, hold on, Brett. Before you get there,
Okay, before we
I
get
was
there,
just gonna say it bothered me watching Cory just hold the turkey, the dead, frozen, maybe thawing turkey in his arms. It's probably because it wasn't a real one,
hmm
because
that would
safety.
be quite
So he
cold.
probably, if he held it by the bag, it probably would have fallen apart and everything. Because I'm sure it was all just decoration. But yeah, him holding a potentially real turkey frozen or thawing just bothered the crap out of me. And I was like, there's going to be turkey juice all over him, regardless of what he's
Yeah,
doing. That's why you have the bag, the
not
mesh bagging.
not to mention it sat under Feeney's desk for a good. This is at least a few classes into
Yeah.
the day.
How long has that been under there for, Brett? I can't. That's not good. That's not healthy. Yes, but back to the Matthewses.
Back to the Matthews and the Hunter's thoughts on how this
Yes.
will go down.
I don't want it.
Come on, it's Thanksgiving, a time of thanks and giving.
It's a family holiday.
Well, the Hunters are a family. We're a family. We can be families together. I'll tell you one thing. Over at the Hunters, they are absolutely delighted about having Thanksgiving with us.
Do I look delighted?
Oh, come on. Why can't we all spend Thanksgiving together?
Because it is unnatural to mix the classes, son. You're tampering with the primal force of nature here.
Why? I think getting together with the Matthews is a wonderful idea.
Have you been drinking?
I don't see anything wrong about having contact with a better class of people.
Better? Well, now we get to it. You are a social climber.
Say what you will, but they're coming.
Over my big dead body.
My folks are totally up for it.
Mine too. It is going to be great.
It's one of my first times they've done it where it's just 3 seconds just to set up the joke.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's perfect.
Yes, it sets it up well, and I find it interesting. I don't want to dive in too deep to it at the moment, but we'll see it play out. I find it interesting that Verna clearly sees the Matthews as a better class of people, not a higher class, not a different class, a better class. So she views herself and everyone who lives in the trailer park as a lesser class.
Yeah, I get the point of that as well, of making the comparison too, but it slightly bugs me, the fact of like, Matthews are trying to be like, well, it's a family holiday. We need to spend it as a family. We spend it together. And the hunters are like, no, we don't want them coming down here and judging us.
Mm-hmm.
They're a different class than us.
Yep. Yeah, it's very different reasoning, and you have to wonder if maybe the Matthews are just trying to sugarcoat their reasoning
I think
and hide
they
it.
are. Brett, you're a social climber. That's what you are.
Yes. But we get finally to Act 1. Pre-Thanksgiving Day tip from the hunters: don't wear red, don't make any jerky movements.
Stray animals.
Yeah, and don't wear camouflage, it will upset the bear.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, if a trailer park in Philadelphia, there are animals in Pennsylvania, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler.
A goat is not uncommon, and neither is a bear.
No, most likely you're going to have some trees at the trailer park, and you're going to have wild animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we get a knock on the door. Frankie has shown up to discuss a dating situation with Mr. Matthews' daughter, and Alan's response is just priceless. He just turns around to Amy and whispers, "Call the cops," because here is Frankie, a high school, I'm going to assume junior at the least at this point, big mountain of a young man who wants to discuss a dating situation with Alan's elementary school daughter.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Alan hasn't met Frankie Stachino yet, but every time people interact with him, they say how gentle he is. But maybe this is the first time he's really met him.
I think it's the first time we've seen him on camera with him. I believe Amy might have interacted with him once on camera, but I'm pretty sure it's the first time Alan has. But it turns out it's actually Herman who wants to set up a dating situation, and he's quite respectful in asking her out.
Yes, woof woof.
Yes, woof woof. Young Herman, the future of the Vader dynasty. And they do want to make sure that the Matthews know about the goat. Do not underestimate him. He is wily.
I mean, I will say, goats are quite territorial beings. If they don't like you, they'll make it known to you. So, if you see a goat, they are not your friend.
And I will say this. You might have seen young goats used for goat yoga. When they get bigger, they're not so cute. My sister and my brother each had a goat growing up. They don't make great pets, and they can be quite belligerent. So wily is an apt descriptor.
Yes.
So we waste no time. The next thing we see is the Matthews arriving at the trailer park, searching for the hunter's trailer. Great for laughs. Amy's worried about the security of her purse. Eric offering to go get it and actually drive away. Morgan is told not to use the bathroom.
Yeah, this is the Matthews' privilege coming out full force and not trusting people that they don't know in an environment that they're unfamiliar with.
Mm-hmm. Which is disappointing, seeing as how they've allowed Cory to spend so much time over at Shawn's house as a younger child. I mean, they clearly trusted the environment he was in and the hunters to take care of him, but they're going to be so worried about themselves here. It's good for the joke, but it's not so great for the characterization.
No.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So the Matthews Alan assumes that the Hunter's trailer is the hunter's trailer because the H has clearly fallen off. And we get to meet Luther Hunter, who is played by Ned Bellamy. First and only time we'll see Luther here on Boy Meets World.
Shame.
Or Ned, for that matter. 127 acting credits to his name. Yes, I agree. It is a shame. He brought a lot. In his acting credits include shows like The Waltons, MASH, The Dukes of Hazzard, MacGyver, not the newer one on CBS, the old one with Richard Dean Anderson. Seinfeld, Con Air, Mystery Men, Saw, ER, Boston Legal, Law and Order SVU, Scrubs. Any of you Scrubs fans, this is what I know him best from outside of Boy Meets World. He is the plastic surgeon who's obsessed with bees in one episode. 24, Twilight, Gotham, Criminal Minds, and so many more. Like I said, 127 acting credits. He is a well-known character actor around Hollywood.
Well, Alan kind of makes an assumption that the H fell off in Hunter, thus Hunter is the one that they're going towards. And I
And he
like,
assumes that the Hunters would not replace the H if it fell off.
and I like how when he comes out, Luther says to him, you know, so you think if a letter fell off my name, I wouldn't replace it? And I think what he's saying, without saying it as much, like, do you not think I have enough self-respect to correct like my address and my name if it got, you know, damaged or isn't right?
Which really, I mean, it cuts Alan off at the knees. He realizes just how far his foot fits in his mouth with that one sentence, because I mean, that's looking down on someone, taking care of their own home, their own family pride. But we also find out fun little tidbit. The Matthews live in a neighborhood known as Cedar Heights.
Yep.
Which I don't remember seeing a Cedar Heights when I was looking for where last season, where I could figure out where they were from. So I'll just assume it's a unofficial nickname for the borough.
Neighborhood that's like right across the way from them, since everyone's able to get from the trailer park to their house pretty easy.
Yes. But clearly a well-off neighborhood, even though we do know the Matthews to be upper middle class. But clearly a well-off neighborhood. But we also see Verna really wants to make sure everything go well. She's trying so very hard. She's made some appetizers that Amy unintentionally, through no fault of her own, shows up right away with the crock she brings over. Alan brings a bottle of wine that kind of unintentionally shows up the box of wine that Chet has in the fridge. And Verna's trying to get everything to work together. She wants to put the wine into a big bowl and mix it all. And Cory, who has gone to retrieve Amy's purse, comes back and wants to know how Shawn let everything fall apart so fast.
Yep.
I love how Eric opens his mouth to say something completely unhelpful and Alan shuts it with a taco.
Well, I think it's just everything that they're doing is offensive to the other person without them saying it. And it's like
they're walking on eggshells with the intention not to offend the other person.
Well,
and
that is so true in just, I think, everyday life, you know, trying not to offend people. Often you end up offending people because you're trying desperately not to. You're trying to be careful with your words, but by being careful, you're on this edge and you slip up and mess up. And, you know, it's a reality I think we all have to deal with, is that stop trying to not offend people and just talk to people and say, hey, if I say something that is insensitive or wrong, please just tell me and let's talk about it. But let's not you know, let's not try to hurt ourselves trying to avoid them.
Yes, it's one thing to be cordial and to be observant of someone else's feelings. It's another to go completely out of the way just to try and not be offensive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I tell all my students all the time, if you have a way of referring to yourself that's different than how I refer to you, you tell me. I will honor your wishes, how you want me to address you, but I can't assume or go out of the way to make those calls, you know. You tell me.
Yep. And Verna's convinced that cheese can turn this all around.
Yes, cheese can make it happen. Cheese is going to be the kicker.
Chet, on the other hand, is convinced there's just too many differences between the two families. Nothing's going to make everything go well. He wants to know if Amy has any of those female calming pills in her purse. Amy says none that she can spare. because Verna's very clearly going off the rails a little bit, trying to match up little umbrellas with little cups, and I mean, I respect
Verna's trying
the hustle.
so
Verna
hard.
has really gone out of her way. She has put so much effort into this. She wants it to succeed, and she's done so much work to make this a successful.
Yeah.
How she put it, wiki luau. I wrote it down somewhere in here, but this is a themed. This is a themed Thanksgiving meal for her. It's like a wiki luau Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But
I was just going to say, Verna is trying to show that they're a normal family and that they can have another normal family over and it can be a normal, good time.
I want to be normal, Chip!
I mean, it doesn't help that her husband...
Not from this episode.
It doesn't help her husband is still a little misogynistic. There's no way around that. But yeah, no, he just... No matter what they're doing, it's not working. And everyone is complaining to their own families, but they're not talking it out as a group.
Yeah. Yeah. So clear indicator, communication needs to be better. Shawn and Cory admit it's bigger than them. We get a knock on the door, and Luther has called Chet to an emergency meeting of the Trailer Park Homeowners Association, who are basically just all of the other trailer park homeowners that are complaining that the hunters invited the hoity-toity, we'll call them built-ins, to call back to some other lingo, to spend time in the trailer park because they all feel as if they're only there to look down on them. And they want the hunters to get rid of them, or they will. And we get to meet Herbert, who has come down from on high, as it is, played by K.E. Cuter. First and only appearance on Boy Meets World. He did sadly pass away in 2003. And he plays the old mountain man, wise mountain man to a T. 141 acting credits to his name. This was toward the end of his run of his acting career, including productions such as Guys and Dolls, Lassie, Zorro, Perry Mason, the original Outer Limits, Mr. Ed, Green Acres, Dallas, Baywatch, Star Trek The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, Seinfeld, The X-Files, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, sadly no Step by Step, ER, so many more. Prolific acting career. So R.I.P.
He really runs the gamut on
great job in this
different major properties throughout the years. So.
Oh, yeah. All over the place. I mean, 141, I just pulled a sampling. I wanted to showcase where he's been. But yeah, his speech about how the trailer park came to be is utterly hilarious to me. I didn't clip it, but are you following along in your script there? Do you have his speech?
And men saw the land, and they knew that it was good and trailer ready. And so we gathered here with our families, hardworking men and women of common purpose, each family having no less or no more nor less than his neighborhood, his neighbor. There was no envy and there was no shame, and there was peace upon this land until today.
He casts a fairly accurate representation of what we've seen of the trailer park up to this point, where it's a community that they support each other. They don't feel any shame for their lot in life, where they are, what they have, what they don't have. And, they feel like this has just been intruded upon, and get them out of here. They're not like us.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, you can have a trailer park unit that is actually a good community that are supportive of each other. But you can also have some not so good ones. Unfortunately, I think because they're trying to make the point at hand, they have to have this hard pass on, you brought these outsiders here. How could you do that? And if you don't get rid of them, we'll get rid of them for you. and again, these jokes are hilarious. Um, but I mean,
Mhm.
trailer parks are not as bad as what they're trying to show right now, I think. Um,
Yes, it's part of the heightened
yeah,
reality we've
there's a
come to
lot.
be
There are
used to.
people in trailer park communities that have better cars than I have. Because there are people that realize, oh, if I live at a cheaper place, I can afford more things. I can live here a little bit. I can live
Mhm.
somewhere else a little bit. I mean, technically, my grandparents live in a trailer park community because their house was a mobile home that was put on blocks, and
Mhm.
that's what it is. There are a lot of mobile
Yeah.
homes that are converted into cinder block houses. It's not that
Yeah.
uncommon for houses to be rolled out to places, set down, and now there's a house. Now, a lot
Yep.
of the houses, the trailer parks we see are more like on the outside, like campers looking, but you can't have the kind of house that is shown inside of the hunter's household the way that it's shown outside. That's not possible. There's a difference between a camper and an
Yes. In the
RV.
real world, this would be a much more
Yes.
cramped house. Something that Shawn could hitch up behind the pickup like we see in season 6, it'd be a much more
Yes. No,
cramped inside.
a camper and a mobile home are two very different things.
Yes. Yeah. But we get an act break. We come back, and Shawn's describing the family dinner as an episode of
I
Cops
do love that
waiting to
description.
happen.
Bad boys
Yes.
and
And
girls.
this is where, yeah, there is a
And we're not
deep
going to explain
insight
it.
Um, yeah, because up until this point, it's just been the families where it's an awkward difference between the classes. The Homeowners Association introduces this feeling of dread and potential violence
Mhm.
that we're kind of hinting at to connect it to the Hutus and the Tutsis. And this is where Verna talks about the uneventful wiki Hawaiian luau Thanksgiving that they want to make sure they're focusing on. And Eric has some thoughts for Cory, which we'll see here.
You did this to us. I mean, I could be at home right now in my nice, comfortable house, which is built into the ground. But no. So you had to drag us to the center of Looneyville.
Eric, I'm sure your brother feels bad enough. Let me talk to him. Cowboys, Redskins. That's a good game I'm missing.
Alan, he's just a boy. He meant well. Honey, I know that Shawn is your best friend, but we never really made friends with his parents.
Yeah, but why, Mom? I mean, just because we have more things than they do? Because Dad makes more money than Shawn's dad? That's why we can't sit down and have a nice meal together?
Son, you won't realize this till you grow up, but being right is not necessarily enough to change the way people feel.
It kind of hits hard. I mean, you've got the humor of Eric being really belligerently, we'll just call him bigoted there.
Yeah.
And Alan just wanting to get through things so that he can get back home.
Yeah.
Because he clearly didn't want to be there from the start. But Cory's words ring true, and Alan admits to it.
Yeah.
Being right isn't always going to change how the way people feel.
Yeah. It's one of the things I appreciate the most about Alan is in this moment, he knows he is wrong and doesn't know how to make things better for his family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think that's hard for most dads to admit. Is
Yes.
I know I'm wrong, and I don't know what to do in this situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a very difficult feeling to be in that situation. Not that I've been in this exact situation, but I have encountered times where I don't know how to make things better for my family, and I don't know what to tell them to help them feel better or be better in that moment. And it's heartbreaking. But I appreciate that honesty from Alan in that moment, because he and Amy are both, I mean, they're there because they know it's the right thing. They're there to honor their son and his desires to have this shared experience. But they also haven't hidden that Shawn and Cory are friends.
Mhm.
They're not friends with the hunters. They never had that relationship, and they're not making an effort
Yeah.
really on their part. But they're also not hiding that there's nothing there that they previously had to build on.
Mhm.
So I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
So we get Chet returning.
You
Bringing
invited
the
these
family outside for a
Aristocats.
little. Bringing the family outside for a little family meeting. Yes, brought the Aristocats in, and he fills them in on what's going on. And he's not going to kick the Matthews out. So
I love
points
that.
to him for that.
I love he's like, is
But-
she gonna kick my friend's family out? He says, no, I'm not.
Yes, points to him for that. He is, however, going to hurry them along.
Yeah, I mean that is a
He's
fair
stuck.
way to handle it. Not as fast as
He's
he
stuck,
does,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean he's stuck. He wants to honor his son and the plans he made with Verna and Shawn, but also he wants to protect the Matthews
Yeah.
and get them out of there before things can get worse.
Yeah. I like how they're gonna take oh my gosh.
Morgan over to
yes,
the
they're
Vader,
gonna take Morgan over
the
to
Vader
Herman's.
residence.
And so he says, Shawnee, why don't you show them how we locals like to walk low to the ground?
So you makes you hard to be seen,
To
through
a scope.
Yeah. Or no, what are you doing out here where you can be seen through a scope?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Shawn dejectedly shows everyone how to walk over. So all the kids go over to hang out with Herman.
Including Eric.
And Frankie. Yes, even Eric. And we get to hang with the parents who are Chet's hurrying them along. Just Alan and Amy and Chet and Verna.
If kids don't eat.
Hunter
family tradition.
Kids don't eat. Kids don't eat, and it's time for pie. I can get behind this tradition.
Right.
And there is so much awkwardness, and I put down here in big bold letters, cringe, as the parents eat, as the vernacular is today. There's plastic forks snapping, and Alan going for another one, and Chet trying to make the argument, well, maybe you should use what you have, and very clearly different worldviews clashing, and Chet just blurting out, that Verna's embarrassed to bring out their actual silverware because they don't match.
Mm-hmm.
And Amy trying to make everyone, trying to make the hunters feel better because they at one point in their lives had mismatched silverware, but it was when they were starting out, which inadvertently makes the hunters feel like, oh, well, we're where we are, where we're actually kind of content, is just starting out from where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not working for them. And yeah.
Well, and I think this is a good point to make too, Brett, of that I can so remember when we were first starting out, sometimes people need to stay in that starting out period. Also, there are people that don't care if their forks match or not. They just use what they have. I don't want to mention names, but I've known people who did have a halfway decent life and had mismatching forks because they just didn't think about it. They ended up later getting a new set, but not everyone worries or thinks about those type of things, depending upon what type of family you're from and the environment that you were brought up in. But others, you have to have a matching set. I will tell you, we recently got a new dining set because it was driving me crazy because we kept losing forks. So we had almost no original forks left from the ones we got when we first got married. And I said, we need to get a new set. It's driving me crazy. So I did buy a new set for us. And I put the other stuff, for the most part, away. Some of them still remain, just, osmosis. But, at the end of the day, there are things that get in the way of people being able to, quote unquote, get out of that when we first got started position. A lot of family history, a lot of family baggage, people bringing stuff into the relationship like debt, potentially, not being able to maintain jobs, whether that is on their fault or not their fault. One of the reasons we were talking about the food pantry so passionately at the beginning is because we both know that sometimes you can't control what happens financially, and you need those assistance,
Hmm.
those helps. Just because the Matthews are at a point where they don't need those assistances, those helps anymore, doesn't mean that that someone similar to them can't use that help. You know, they could
Hmm.
get hit with a giant medical bill out of nowhere. Maybe Alan can't provide for them with their new struggling business. Maybe they have to sell the house because it's not going well. You know, yes, they're doing well because TV Magic needs their business to go well and everything needs to work out perfectly. But, you know, there was a point in the first season where Alan was having to lay off people. What if Alan was one of the people that got laid
Hmm.
off? You know,
Yeah.
the Matthews are not as far away from being where the Hunters are, and vice versa. You know, Chet has a lot of ideas, just not the drive to be able to make those ideas occur. If he had a little bit of those drives and be able to make some things happen, they could have a halfway decent, better life. You know,
Hmm.
so at the end of the day, there's not as big of a difference between the Hunters and the Matthewses, I guess is my point. And same as a lot of the people that we interact with on a daily basis, you know, you don't know what their family life is like.
Yeah. It's just a matter of where they fall in the social stratus, is all
Right.
it is. At the core, they're very much the same.
Yeah.
But so we visit over to the Vader trailer, and you know, the kids are kind of venting a little bit about how frustrating it is that things are not
Hmm.
going well. And Frankie has some wisdom he wants to share, and I want to share it with the good looking people. I did clip
Good.
his wisdom for us.
Adults are not narrow-minded by nature. They can, however, be set in their ways.
I am but a callow youth, yet it seems to me a shame they should be set in the way of disliking each other.
They come from different worlds. Think of them as the Hutus and Tutsis, living with prejudice and hatred passed on from parent to child because it is what they've grown accustomed to.
You know, are we the only two people on this whole planet who don't know who the Hutus and Tutsis are?
You know, Cory, for once, I think our ignorance may be working for us.
What, you mean if we knew better, we wouldn't be friends?
Yeah. So I'm glad we don't know better.
Yeah, me too.
Well, our table is in order. It is time to proceed with our holiday repast.
Yeah, and that's where we hinted at in the beginning, where Shawn and Cory are more than happy that their ignorance has allowed them to be the friends that they are and to have the relationship that they have.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I agree completely. It's a shame that the parents somehow can't get along, even though there should be evidence that they've known each other for years and have gotten along and have trust in one another. But the show has to be a show. Um, and at the end of the day, this is a special moment for Frankie and showing
Mhm.
wisdom, and Cory and Shawn for being happy that they
Yeah.
don't know things.
Yeah, it's finally worked to their favor to be as ignorant as they can be. Oh.
Hmm.
And so the group sits down to share something that my family in years past has done. They share, go around the table, share something they're each thankful about before they begin to eat. And in the background, we get to see Chet and Verna and Alan and Amy come upon this gathering at the table, and also we see Mr. Unter himself, Luther, and one of his cronies kind of appear to overhear everything that's going on, and everyone gets to hear the things that are being shared. Of course, Eric, one of the bigger knocks in the episode for him is sharing that he's sharing with his friends and around the table. I'm like, well, there's no one there that's really your friend. It's your family and Frankie and his brother, none of which you've really said are your friends up to this point. But
I mean, I feel like it's more accurate if he would have said, "and lovely hosts," and like amazing people, like kind-hearted folks,
Mhm.
like, you know, people I judged the wrong way. Something to kind of indicate of, even if he would have just said Shawn and,
Yeah.
the enforcer, you know, anything better than my friends, because that's not his
The
friends.
enforcer is no more,
But I do
sir.
love he says, I'm thankful to be eating with my
Yeah.
brother. That is important.
Yeah.
And his sister.
But it's a nitpick in the greater scheme of things. And everyone gets to share something. They kind of share their hearts. And we get Alan and Chet just getting hit with, we really suck. Alan feels about 2 inches tall. Chet feels even smaller than that.
Yeah.
And they realize that.
Okay, I
Go
love.
for it.
Sorry, I love Morgan saying, "For once, I'm thankful to be sitting at the kids'
Yes, I do
table."
love that.
And Shawn's just thankful that Cory is his friend, and nothing has gotten in the way of that. And Cory is thankful that his parents taught him not to judge people.
Yes, and that's what really hits Alan, especially that here I've taught my kids this great stuff, and I'm not living it out myself. It's been a do as I say, not what I do type of experience for him in this episode. And so, in the midst of their guilt and shame, realizing these kids get it, and we have not gotten it this whole time. They want to see if there's room for them at the table. Chet invites Luther to an emergency meeting of the human race, which is a great little one-liner for him there. And Luther and his crony just kind of, you can tell they're not happy, but they recede into the night, as it were. And of course, there's always room at this table, and they're all welcome. We get a nice shot of everyone giving thanks and clinking some glasses with some punch. And we fade out on the Thanksgiving dinner that they're finally able to share. It's not the wiki luau Thanksgiving, but it is a more traditional, but a shared experience that Shawn and Cory actually had envisioned when they initially set it up.
Well, and I will say, I think what's nice is the Stachino family. It's not shown, but there's a strong chance that Mrs. Stachino could have made that meal for her boys.
I'm sure she did.
Even though she's not getting to partake in it. Their father is not there because
I'm assuming he's away on a match.
Off chasing the belt. That is the wrestler's lifestyle. You do miss holidays. You do miss a bunch of important things. He probably has a show that night.
Not
and at the end of the day, without the Stachinos, with Frankie and especially Herman, I don't think the Matthewses and the Hunters would be able to come together. It's almost like, Brett, sometimes we need like a third party, a third entity to kind of help us all realize we're not so different, you and I.
Yes.
It's almost like we're constantly going, that versus this means one of them has to be evil always. It's a problem.
Yes, I absolutely hate that we have become so polarized as a culture that we can't find the neutral ground, the shared experiences and the shared things together, rather than just jumping to, you see things this way, I see things this way, so you must be evil because it's different from what I see things. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yes.
And so we, in the tag, as we leave the episode, Mr. Feeney is handing out back the papers, and he's not giving Shawn his back. He wants Shawn to come to the front of the room and
get a
Braveheart in front of everybody. But he actually wants to invite Shawn to read a section from his paper, which I mentioned at the onset of the episode. I always get hit when he's reading this part. So I did clip it. I clipped about a minute of this experience, and so I want us to hear this together.
This past week, I spent Thanksgiving with the Hutus and the Tutsis, which was a real surprise to me because I live in Philadelphia. And I thought that kind of prejudice based on class differences only happened in undeveloped countries. Is that enough? I'm getting vertigo from facing this way in the room.
Come on.
But I discovered that even in my very own civilized country, people can be just as undeveloped and just as cruel. But more importantly, and the thing that gives me hope, is that as long as the children are educated about the dangers of prejudice and intolerance, then perhaps there will be a reason for Thanksgiving in the future.
That's the best work you've ever done, Mr. Hunter. C minus?
All right.
A plus. I'm as shocked as you are.
Better than you now.
Undercut a little by Shawn telling Cory he's better than him now. But Shawn being able to see himself in a world where he can finally understand a little bit of what the Hutus and the Tutsis are going through. That type of class difference that has such a stark shift in the world around them, where they can't find that middle ground that we were just talking about. And so they are forced to see through their own worldview that the other is evil and the other is to be destroyed. That's what we're getting at in the world today. We have such a quick trigger to declare any worldview that is not our own, that does not match up, as being wrong and evil and othering it, that we are not making the attempt that Shawn makes to find that middle ground that he has in his relationship with Cory, that he was willing to making friends with Frankie in episodes past, that he is trying to get his family to do in this one Thanksgiving meal. And being able to share that in this paper with Mr. Feeney, he really shows that he understands this this part of the world. He may not have the academic smarts that other students in that room have, but he has more world experience, more street smarts than a lot of these students up to this point were able to use to understand the conflict. And will be able to take that outside of the classroom better than a lot of them will be able to.
Yep. I think one of the reasons I like this episode is because it's the first time we get to watch Shawn really process something. It's the first time he's taking from the classroom, processing himself in the real world, and then using that towards academics, which I'm assuming he almost never does. And the amount of solid words that he uses is impressive, I think, to Mr. Feeney. Because I don't think Feeney thought he knew those words.
Yep.
So the fact is that he can be a higher, not higher ranked student, not in a better, but his work can go beyond what he has shown before when he actually puts effort into it, when he actually tries, which is why I love the fact he gives him an A plus. You know,
not just a C plus, an A plus.
Yeah, exactly. You know, in the future, I love because Feeney tries to make it clear, not this episode, but in future episodes, that I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you just to try, and tries to show him the difference between what is a college level versus a high school level, so he understands of what the goal is and how he can still teach him things. It's not so cut clear and dry as to it's either bad or it's good. It's this can be worked on, this can be improved on. It's a development. So I love Shawn's realization at this time, and also that, you know, at the end of the day, the parents aren't completely acting irrationally. They're just put in an uncomfortable position. And it's a TV show, so it's a little more amplified, you know, in that as well.
Yes, indeed.
So,
yeah. But that is that's Turkey Day.
Yeah, and I am better than you.
And yes, and of note, these are the final appearances we will ever have for Shireen Mitchell as Verna Hunter.
So sad.
And EJ De La Pena as Herman Stakino. So good-looking people. I hope you enjoyed Verna and Herman's last appearances on Boy Meets World.
Well, this is the last time we see Frankie this season too, isn't it?
This season, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So we don't see him again until graduation.
He'll come back at least on graduation. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the last time we'll see Frankie for a while as well.
For quite some time. Yes.
So I really wish we got more out of Verna. She's a terrific. The actress playing her does a
Mhm.
great job, and I almost think
Yeah.
with her leaving, quote unquote, again, there should have been some form of a scene of
Yeah.
even if
I
it
just think
wasn't
the
with the
writers
kids,
didn't
it
know what
needed
to
to
do
be
with her.
something there of a dramatic moment where she decides to leave.
Yeah, either the writers didn't know what to do with her or Michael Jacobs just didn't want to mine that story anymore. And either way, it's a
Yeah,
loss.
it is. And Herman, you
Yeah.
were beyond your years, sir. We could have focused a little
Yes,
bit
you
upon
were.
Morgan and her love affair with him, but oh well.
Yep, you were a fantastic fit, Herman. So
Yes.
for your service, both Verna and Herman, thank you. So Tyler, do you have any more deep dives for us?
I do.
People, 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 people. Am I the only one who read the summer reading list?
Yes, you are. So we were talking about food banks. So I will send this link to Brett so that he has it. But there is a website called Feeding America. Basically, is a national database for food banks. So if you go in and you type in your zip code, type in your state, it should pop up a food bank in your area. So that way those that may need the uses of a food bank and are struggling to have the food that they need at their home, you can get that resource. B, if you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, they're always looking for helpful hands at food banks. They always need an extra few minutes of assistance and support. And also they're always looking for resources, so if you're looking for stuff to donate, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk stuffing, because I don't know about you, Brett, but stuffing's a pretty big deal. And so especially
Mm-hmm.
stovetop stuffing, because that is the best that's the
Yes.
best stuffing in my opinion. So stovetop is a stuffing that was introduced by General Food in 1972. It's considered a quick cooking instant stuffing that is available at supermarkets. Unlike traditional stuffing, stovetop can be prepared on the stove in a pot and can be prepared in a microwave oven. There are so many different forms uh, of stuffing stovetop. It's ridiculous. Just go into the aisle, just watch and enjoy. It's delicious. It's now owned by Heinz, Kraft Heinz,
Mm-hmm.
which is now starting to own everything.
Yes.
Let's see. In 2005, it was reported that Kraft Heinz, which has owned the brand since 1990, sells about 60 million boxes of stuffing at Thanksgiving.
Just at Thanksgiving.
So this is some basics on turkey safety. Okay. So, refrigerating thaw, plan ahead, allow approximately 24 hours for each 4 to 5 pounds in a refrigerator set to 40 degrees. So that means if you're thawing it, you need at least 24 hours per 4 to 5 ounces. You get them frozen most often, good looking people. So you can't buy it the day before.
Unless you're farm fresh.
Yes.
Yes.
Place turkey in a container to prevent the juices from dripping onto other food. Lots of juices. While it's thawing, be very careful of that. That's why I was concerned with Cory hugging it, because I'm like, gosh, even the little bit, like there will be juices on him, especially body heat. Refrigerating thawing time for a whole turkey. You're looking at 4 to 12 pounds for 1 to 3 days, 12 to 16, 3 to 4, 16 to 20, 4 to 5, 20 to 24, 5 to 6 days, just to thaw the sucker. This is all why
Just sit in your
people,
fridge.
there's a whole lot of stuff about safety when it comes to cooking turkeys, because again, it comes in frozen. People that try to deep fry it, why?
Oh, don't ever put it in
No.
frozen. Watch YouTube videos for 10 seconds and learn why.
So yes, you got to be careful when it comes to thawing your turkey, because otherwise, if you're cooking it frozen, cooking it, or especially if you're trying to deep fry it, any little bit frozen, you're going to have issues.
Yeah.
Now, you may find this enjoyable, Brett, but Unter has been used as a last name. There is
in the world of Boy Meets World,
yeah,
and the real world.
So apparently, historically, surname involved, as well as people into groupings by occupations, places, origins, clan affiliations, parentage, adoptions. That's not helpful. Oh, sorry. But the surname can be traced back towards Britain and Ireland. So Unter can be traced back towards the UK, essentially. Some names that are similar to it would be Unger, Munter, Gunter, Hunter. Well, some others. I guess it's also been used as a first name as well. But if you go into the census records, you will see that there are people with the last name of Unter. I don't think there's any famous Unters out there, but they're out there.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
And last, of course, but not least, Brett. She was talking about Cheese Whiz, but we'll talk about Easy Cheese because that's what I have. Because Easy Cheese, Cheese Whiz, it's all the same. But it's trademark and processed cheese spreading product. It's a cheese spray, and that's exactly what she was trying to use, was a cheese spray to solve the problem. Started in 1965. Used to be owned by Nabisco. Similar product was released by Betty Lou Foods in 1963. The Easy Cheese was first manufactured by Nabisco and was sold under Snackmates in 1965 until 1984. Advertisements often displayed the orange product adorned in fluffy peak. Those are the deep dives.
All right, so let's talk about what we learned.
You know anything about the Odyssey? Huh? Did I say you could talk?
I didn't teach you that.
My friend Mr. Matthews will lead the discussion.
Do I have to draw you a picture?
So, Tyler, what did you learn this week?
I learned I can't record a podcast while people are still awake. Your foot is stuck. What I learned this week is that we have differences and we have to work through said differences. And we, honest to goodness, need to stop worrying about what makes us different and focus on what makes us similar. Because we are much similar than we are different. What'd you learn, Brent?
I would say my learning, I echo that learning. I also want to remind good-looking people, don't focus so much on the different that you forget to look for what you have in common with other people, and so that you don't fall into the trap of othering people to the point where you become the evil that you are seeing in other people. So,
I'm right?
No, you're exactly right.
So am I done with my education? Can I go?
let's grade this puppy. What do you grade Turkey Day?
I would, you know what? I'm giving it an A+. I'm giving it an A+, just like the paper. I'm just as shocked as you are, Brett. It's an A+.
I'm going with an A+ too. It might not necessarily make any of those top 10 lists that we do, but it is one I pull out every year at Thanksgiving. It is one that I niggle a couple of little things that I have problems with, but they are not enough to detract from the whole picture for me.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
A+ for me. Yeah. So dad joke for you before we go and say
Yes,
goodbye.
please.
A friend asked me if I'd seen the film tractor. I told him no, but I've seen the trailer.
Very nice.
And one more just for fun for the road. My
Please.
wife said if I bought her one more stupid gift, she would burn it. So I bought her a candle.
Very nice.
So good looking people. With that, that is our episode for Turkey Day. If you want to share your thoughts and answer our question about what the best Thanksgiving Day food is, you can reach us on our social channels at X/Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at dadsmeetworld. You can also find us at email, where you can send us an email at dadsmeetworld@gmail.com. And, we'll be back next week with another great episode. So until then, Tyler, I'll see you, good looking.
Back to you, good looking.
You know, how can I learn so much every week and still be so stupid? I want to be normal, spud!
Dads Meet World is a production of Headfirst Studios. Headfirst Studios, tell your story.